Liberal democracy is a revolutionary dysfunctional ideology that wants to destroy your culture. Democratic values are values which are causing the suffering of millions of people for the utopian, unachievable system known as democracy. Children in the Middle East experience this better than anyone. Fervent democratic crusades result in forever wars in the Middle East and literally everywhere else, which the democratic institution known as the CIA takes advantage of by selling copious amounts of drugs everywhere. Liberals and neocons have a paranoid schizophrenic persecution complex where they believe that every country which does not buy into democracy wants to destroy them, even the countries that they destroy themselves. Yes, democracy cucks actually believe Iraq is a serious threat to US democracy. If this crazy, deranged ideology interests you, keep listening because it gets worse. In order to justify their excessive death tolls, the proponents of democracy have a habit of saying democracy is the worst system except for all the others, a statement which can only be taken seriously if you are buying the drugs peddled by the CIA, which is not unlikely. It's like if a communist said, communism is the worst system except for all the others. The reason a communist would say that is because their tiny hamster brains can't physically comprehend the idea that there would be another system better than communism. We would hope that liberals are a bit smarter, because they run everything, but they are the same as communists. The vast majority believe in that intellectual schlock. I expect the majority of people watching this live in some kind of democracy, so this video must be hyper-relevant to you. Keep watching, because I will give you the truth and only the truth. And just a quick note before the video starts, I am using the term liberal to only refer to supporters of democracy. So if you consider yourself conservative and support democracy, I am also referring to you when I say liberal. I would use the term Democrat, but that's already taken by a certain anti-democratic party. In theory, it's illegal to buy votes. In practice, big money has found a way to bypass our laws through the legalized corruption known as lobbying. If we wanted to build a democracy which most accurately represents today's reality, we should allow politicians to bribe you to vote for their party. That would actually be infinitely better, because instead of politicians getting undeserved money when they already have millions, people would get the money they need. It's a win-win. We don't actually need communism to redistribute wealth. Delusional liberals will say that isn't how real democracy is supposed to work, just like how the Soviet Union wasn't real communism. If I watch anime expecting not to be disgusted, but every time I watch it I want to vomit, then anime has a tendency to make me sick. And if democracy is not supposed to be corrupt, but every time it is tried it turns into a dysfunctional mess, then democracy has a tendency to be corrupt. Okay, so then why don't we elect someone who isn't corrupt? And to that I say, good fucking luck to whoever wants to run against the democratic establishment. The establishment is so frightened of people actually getting representation that they will slander the outsiders so hard that his public reputation will turn from reliable man who only wants the best into far-right, neo-Nazi, conspiracist, racist. After that, people will still vote for him, but what does it matter if everyone in the establishment believes that crap and won't work with him because of it? It's not possible to get anything done if nobody works with you. Liberals cope, sieve, and dilate with this fact by just outright denying that there is a self-interested establishment, or if there is an establishment, it's actually far-right and wants to end our precious democracy. Some liberals are delusional enough to believe that corporations aren't pushing a radical liberal agenda because the people who lead them have no interest in politics, or, and I quote, they just aren't smart enough, because Jeff Bezos created the biggest company in the world while being a moron. At the same time, they will also complain about the Koch brother bribing politicians to stop climate reform because Big Koch has an interest in continuing the use of oil for energy because he's an oil baron. I'm so jealous of Germany. The Germans get to live in a country where you can break your wallet to pay for electricity and also eat bugs? Why can't we have that in Canada? Answer, it's coming. If you have an idea of what policies will make these corporations more money, then you have an idea of what political affiliation they will have. Namely, corporations will promote ultra-hedonist, individualist, illiberal internationalism because if you're a hedonist, you will have no self-control, so you will buy anything by impulse. If you're an individualist, you will not have a community, meaning you will have to buy everything and maintain everything yourself. And internationalism breaks down trade barriers so Jeff Bezos can sell his body pillows worldwide. These are the ideas which corporations want to spread, and they are allowed to spread through democracy. Democracy is the host, corporate interests are the disease. You remove the host, you remove the ability for the disease to spread. Democracy rarely represents the interests of the people, and instead represents the interest of the corporate elite. Democracy gives you the illusion of choice. Both roads lead to Jeb. Liberals don't believe that their system is the best. They believe that every other system is evil manifest. This idea came from the French Revolution, where all the various factions slaughtered each other like dogs for 20 years, because nobody could agree on who had the purest form of democracy. The French Revolution that happened 200 years ago still has reactionary monarchists such as myself coping today by simping over Tootie woman. The way the French Revolution ended was when a strongman dictator took control of France and steered the country in the right direction. That's awesome. Why can't we have that in Canada? Answer? Everyone knows the phrase, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants. A saying which encourages psychopathic violent outbursts from people who are impatient idiots. The king is not doing so well. He's the reason my life is in shambles and I'm addicted to drugs. We must overthrow him. In many cases, the new democratic regime is actually worse than the pre-revolutionary order. When people say democracy is more stable than any other form of government, they are not woke to the facts. The only two democracies who have functioned without their government being overthrown are the UK and the US, both Anglo-Saxon Protestant countries which largely share the same culture. In France, you get the musical chairs of government for 100 years. Monarchy, republic, monarchy, republic, monarchy, republic. Germany and Italy didn't even have democratic governments for 20 years before they got overthrown. Democracy has basically never worked in Russia or China. And the countries of South America are playing a more intense game of musical chairs, except that they sometimes choose communist and fascist dictatorships. Maybe democracy is a natural form of government in Anglo-Saxon countries, but certainly not anywhere else. Liberals want everybody to work together and solve differences by talking. It's a totally gay idea. As the great Bismarck said, violence is the answer. Or maybe something like blood and steel. Basically the same thing. There have been lots of communist revolutions, fascist coups, and other various things, but liberals are built different. Basically, every single country that is a democracy today did not start out as one. Except the British Commonwealth, Poland, Turkey, and other colonies which gained independence from a republic, very few countries were born as a democracy. All of them had to be overthrown by violent revolution. But let's say a horribly violent, bloody, unrestrained, maniacal, hot-headed revolution succeeds. What happens next? You might get the foreign policy of the US, which would be an embarrassment if it weren't for the fact that the US controls the majority of media worldwide, and those media sources all agree that American diplomacy is good diplomacy. America is the most evil empire in world history. American liberals have the righteous conviction and their own belief that they can do no wrong. They invaded Iraq and destroyed that country for 20 years and continue to occupy it because liberals believe they just haven't gotten it right yet. You know, because the past 20 years of trying to make Iraq a functional democracy haven't been successful, but if you keep trying and use the power of friendship and gay rights, it should work eventually. Just like how Mr. Orange Man forced Botswana to accept the gay by withholding foreign aid, or you can fund democratic revolutions killing thousands of people because you don't want to get your hands dirty. You know, the simple things. And this is not just modern. Why did Woodrow Wilson attack Imperial Germany? Because Kaiser Wilhelm II was an evil man doing evil things like being a king in current year, oppressing his perfectly happy subjects, and, worst of all, fighting back against Britain's illegal North Sea blockade by sinking ships holding war material for the Entente. For those of you who don't know, the Lusitania was carrying huge amounts of ammunition bound for Britain. It was not just a passenger ship. One could even say that America deliberately sent that ship into a war zone for it to be sunk so they could have a justification for war. That certainly wouldn't be unusual for the US to do, like the ship that was sunk to get America into the Spanish-American War, the whole bunch of ships that were sunk at Pearl Harbor, the other ship that got America into Vietnam, and, for a change of pace, because I guess the person who was coming up with all these totally unique ideas for getting America into wars was suspect that the public would start catching on. 9-11 to get America into the Middle East. The end result of LGBTP foreign policy is all gay pilots running sorties over Syria and dropping bombs with the gay flag on it because al-Assad is not allowing two men to kiss.
Sir, yes sir! To uphold gay marriage, sir!
You actually have the time? I'm a strong believer in the idea that the type of government doesn't matter, the people in the government do. Democracy is specially designed to pick the worst people because the only person who willingly seeks out power is not the type of person who you want to have power. With politicians, you only get two types of people, bureaucrats or psychopaths. Bureaucrats come in and they're willing to suck anyone to get into a position of power because they're weak.
Beta male. Beta! Oui, beta male. Beta male.
The beta melon.
Psychopaths will use a combination of lying, manipulating, cheating, stealing, gaslighting, bullying, insulting, and flexing to get power. Normal people simply can't compete. Unironically, you could run your country better than a democracy if you chose your politicians by lottery. Power doesn't corrupt. The people who want power are corrupt. And sometimes there's a politician who isn't completely insane, but not being insane doesn't mean you're fit to run a country. Most people voting don't vote because they like their candidate's policies. They vote because they like the politician because they say the kind words that make them feel good, or because they are loyal to the party. And who can blame them? If you're a lawyer, your main concerns are with your client. You simply do not have enough time to research who is the best candidate so you can make an educated vote. The time you would put into the research is literally not worth it because 1. The more time you put into researching, the less time you have for leisure and making money, and 2. Because even if you didn't have enough time, your vote is literally swamped by millions of other votes by people who did not do their research. If you didn't vote, literally nothing would change, and actually, you'd have more free time to do self-improvement, which would give you an advantage in a capitalist society. The cure for democracy is monarchy, because monarchy is based in epic, and also because number 1, fuck democracy, number 2, tradition is good, and number 3, absolute power is absolutely good. Monarchy is not the antithesis of democracy, because, like hereditary rule, politicians aren't chosen by merit. Elections are popularity contests. Monarchy is also the most stable form of government. While politicians are just crack-out degenerates, a king is born and he is most likely average. The nobility are born into the positions of power and they will also be average. But normal people make mistakes. That's okay. We're not all perfect. Trying to make everyone perfect is communism, and look how that turned out. Monarchy formalizes the power structures. You know who is aristocratic in a monarchy. In democracy, you actually have no idea who rules over you. It's certainly not the politicians, because they get paid off to do the bidding of international mega elites. Monarchy isn't the solution because it's the best system. It is because it's the least worst system. I would like to thank you, the viewer, for listening to me ridicule everything you believe in, and I would like to thank Thomas Hobbes. Without him, this video wouldn't be possible. Most importantly, I would like to thank the creator of the English language. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the words to thank him. If you like this video, comment, subscribe, and like.